The soundstage was silent except for the soft buzzing of lights overhead. Dozens of crew members stood frozen. Not because something broke, not because something exploded, but because Ana de Armas had missed her cue. The line had passed. The camera was rolling. And the entire set waited for a voice that didn't come. Keanu Reeves stood center stage, a soft expression on his face. He didn't move. He didn't improvise. He didn't look to the director. He just stayed there, breathing slow, his eyes fixed on the same spot they always landed, right where Ana was supposed to step into frame. Only she hadn't. The silence grew heavier. The director's hand lifted, but Keanu gently reached over and lowered it again. "Give her a minute," he whispered, barely loud enough for anyone but the closest to hear. The director hesitated, then nodded, confused. What no one knew was this. 5 minutes earlier, behind the tall black curtains at the edge of the stage, Ana de Armas had been standing alone, holding her script like it was made of glass. Her fingers trembled slightly, and not because she forgot her lines. She hadn't forgotten a single word. But she couldn't breathe. The scene was emotional, not just in the script, but in real life. It mirrored something she had lived through only a year ago. A phone call, a hallway, someone she cared for walking away without a word. It was too close, too soon. And right now she was trying not to cry before stepping into the light. Her breathing was short and shallow. She was holding back a memory she didn't want the world to see. And while the crew waited and the cameras kept rolling, Keanu didn't move. He didn't move, because somehow, without even turning around, he knew. He stood there like a statue made of kindness. And the quiet he created gave Ana just enough space to take one slow breath. And then another. In her mind, she heard the line. She heard her cue. She felt the eyes of the crew. But more than that, she felt the silence. His silence. And it didn't pressure her. It held her. When she finally stepped forward, her eyes were red, but not from makeup. Her first line broke like a whisper through the air. No one clapped. No one even blinked. The emotion was real. It wasn't just acting anymore. After the take ended, the director turned to Keanu and asked softly, "How did you know?" Keanu just looked toward the curtain and said, "Because that pause felt human." Ana didn't speak for the rest of the day. Not until they were off set. Not until they were outside under the fading sun, sitting on a small bench near the trailers. She had a paper cup of tea in her hand. Keanu sat beside her, silent again. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask why she froze. After a long time, she said, "I thought I was over it." Keanu looked straight ahead and answered, "Healing isn't a straight line." Ana smiled, just a little, and whispered, "Thank you for waiting." Keanu nodded once. "I'd wait again." And from that moment, something changed between them. Not love, not yet, but something deeper than words. The next day, the crew came early. They joked, they laughed. But every time Ana walked on set, the space felt quieter. Not because they feared another pause, but because they had seen something real. The line she missed became more than a missed cue. It became the reason everyone remembered why they started making movies in the first place. Not for perfect takes, not for awards, but for moments that felt like this. Ana didn't miss another cue for the rest of the shoot. But every now and then, Keanu still waited, just in case. And she always noticed. Then answered, "Maybe not, but they'll feel it." Ana closed her eyes, and for once, she didn't try to hide anything. The call sheet had been posted late the night before. Bold letters at the top said emotional flashback scene, underlined twice. Most of the crew knew what that meant. It was going to be hard, long, sensitive. But only a few knew what the scene really was. Ana knew, Keanu knew, And the director, Marcus, had warned them gently during rehearsal week. This one's going to ask a lot from both of you. It was the kind of scene that didn't just ask for acting. It asked for honesty, for wounds. It pulled things out of people they weren't ready to share, and it left them tired long after the cameras stopped rolling. Anna stood in the wardrobe trailer, her reflection staring back at her through the mirror. The costume was simple, an oversized hoodie, soft jeans, barefoot. It was supposed to look like comfort, like vulnerability. But on Anna's frame, it made her feel small, younger, fragile. She looked at her reflection and didn't see herself. She saw the version of her that had cried in airports, the girl who once waited for calls that never came, the woman who smiled at premieres with a broken ribcage hidden beneath the surface. A knock at the door made her jump. "It's me," Keanu's voice called softly. "Just checking in." Anna opened the door slowly. He didn't step in, just stood there with 2 coffees. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, but it was the kind of nod that said no. Keanu didn't press her. He just handed her the coffee. "It's the one with cinnamon, the one you like." Anna smiled, touched the lid, and held it close. "Thank you. Want to walk a bit before we start?" She nodded again. This time, it meant yes. They walked behind the trailers, quiet. The sky was pale. The sun hadn't warmed the air yet. Gravel crunched beneath their shoes. The studio was still half asleep. It felt like another world. Anna finally said, "I almost asked them to cut the scene." Keanu glanced over but said nothing. "I read it again last night," she went on, "and I just thought, this is too much, too close. I'm not sure I can go there again." Keanu sipped his coffee slowly, then replied, "You don't have to go there alone." She stopped walking. He stopped too. She looked at him. "But how do you do it? How do you give so much to scenes like this without getting lost in them?" Keanu took a breath. "I don't avoid the feeling. I let it move through. But I don't let it stay. And if it stays, then you talk, or you sit, or you ask someone to wait with you." Anna looked down at her cup. "Like you did that day." Keanu nodded. Exactly like that. When they returned to the stage, the lights were dimmed, the crew whispering as if preparing for something sacred. The room had a hush that came not from rules, but from respect. They blocked the scene once. Anna stood by the window. Keanu walked in. They didn't say the full lines, just marked their steps, their distance. The script had one moment that made Anna's heart race, an unscripted embrace. The character Keanu played was supposed to hold her, not like a lover, but like someone who knew how to carry grief. The kind of hug that wasn't romantic. It was human. Anna hadn't told anyone, but she was scared of that part. Not because of Keanu, never because of him, but because she didn't know if she could hold it together once his arms wrapped around her. When they began the real take, the set felt colder than it was, even with lights, even with people. The emotional temperature dropped into a place where everyone knew something was about to happen. Anna delivered the first lines perfectly. Her voice had cracks. Her pauses were real. She moved to the window, trembling slightly, and when Keanu entered, he didn't rush his part. He waited. Again. Just like before. The moment came. The embrace. Keanu stepped close. Anna stood frozen. For half a second, it wasn't a scene anymore. It was life. Her hands lifted slowly. Her chest tightened. Her face trembled. Keanu didn't rush the hug. He didn't force it. He just extended his arms gently, slowly, like someone offering shelter, not grabbing it. Anna stepped in and broke. Tears came so fast she couldn't speak the next line. Her body shook in his arms, and for a long, long moment, they just stayed there. The director didn't call cut. The camera kept rolling, because everyone in the room knew This was the take. When it was over, Anna didn't let go right away, and Keanu didn't pull back. He waited for her, again. And when she finally stepped away, she wiped her eyes, gave a small laugh, and said, "Guess we don't need another take." The crew clapped, but it wasn't loud. It wasn't performative. It was soft, almost reverent. Afterwards, she sat on the steps outside the studio, still in costume, her makeup running, her heart wide open. And yet the camera caught something unspoken. Two people who had found something rare in each other. Not romance, not friendship, something in between. A quiet loyalty, the kind that lasts longer than scripts or applause. And for the first time since this film began, Anna didn't worry about missing her cue. Because even if she did, someone would wait. It was the final week of filming. Every scene they shot now felt like a countdown. The walls of the soundstage seemed smaller, the costumes more lived in, the spaces between action and cut held a kind of nostalgia already. No one said it, but everyone felt it. Something rare had been made here. And soon, it would end. Anna felt it most. Not because of the lines left in the script, but because of what she'd found in the silence between them. A kind of trust. A quiet strength she didn't know she had. And a connection that went deeper than words. That morning, the assistant director handed her a revised script. "Just a small rewrite," he said. "Scene 92. Keanu's character has a monologue now." The tone shifted a little. Anna flipped to the page. The scene was meant to be hers. A moment of internal reflection. A pause in the story. Her character staring into nothing, trying to process everything. But now, he had lines. A long paragraph. Words meant to comfort, to explain, to lead. Anna nodded politely and walked back to her trailer. The page stayed open in her hand, but her chest started to tighten. She didn't know why it stung. She trusted the director, trusted the story, and she more than trusted Keanu. But something inside her felt off. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't ego. It was fear. What if her silence wasn't enough anymore? What if the thing that made her scene powerful, the stillness, the pause, was being replaced by something louder? She stood in her trailer doorway trying to breathe through the thought. The knock came like it always did. 2 soft taps. Keanu. "You read the change?" he asked gently. Anna nodded. "How do you feel about it?" She hesitated, then said, "Honestly, I don't know." Keanu stepped in, holding a mug. "Tea? You always show up with tea." "Because it works," he said. She smiled a little. He sat across from her, not too close, not too far. "They want me to talk during that scene," he said. "But I don't think I should." Anna looked up, surprised. He continued, "You built something there, in the silence, in the stillness. If I talk, it might break it." "But it's a powerful monologue," she replied. "So is a pause," he answered. They sat in silence for a few more moments. Then Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out the revised page. He held it up, then slowly tore it down the middle. Anna gasped. "You can't just do that." He smiled. "I already talked to Marcus. I told him the moment belongs to you." Anna's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. "I didn't ask for that," she whispered. "I know," Keanu said. "That's why it mattered." Later, when they shot scene 92, the lights were dimmed. No background music, no movement. Just Anna sitting alone on a bench, the camera close, her breath soft. Keanu entered the frame, sat beside her, but said nothing. The script had no words now, but the silence said everything. Anna looked straight ahead, then down at her hands, then at him. Their eyes met, and the moment stretched, pure, unedited emotion. The director didn't cut for several minutes. When he finally did, he stood and whispered, "We'll never top that." The entire crew applauded, not loud, but slow, like it meant something. Anna walked off set in a daze. Not confused, just full. Keanu followed a few steps behind. Outside, the sky had turned orange, dusk spilling over the parking lot like spilled paint. She leaned against the wall, still holding the weight of what just happened. "You didn't have to give that scene back," she said softly. "I didn't give it back," he replied. "I never owned it." Anna turned to him. "You keep doing that," she said. "Doing what?" "Reminding me who I really am, without ever saying it." Keanu shrugged. "Maybe that's the best kind of reminder." They stood there a little longer, watching the sun drop. Anna whispered, "I don't want this to end." Keanu nodded. "Then maybe it doesn't have to." Her heart skipped. "What do you mean?" He turned to her slowly. "I mean, maybe it's not just about this set, or this film. Maybe we carry this with us. Maybe what we built doesn't stay in the scene." Anna looked down. Her voice trembled. "I don't know what this is between us." Keanu smiled, kind and quiet. "It doesn't need a name," he said. "Just trust it." And somehow, that was enough. Because some things aren't about what they're called. They're about what they feel like. And this felt like something worth keeping. The final day of filming came faster than anyone expected. Call sheets had a strange way of marking time. Each day crossed off like a silent drumbeat toward the end. And now there it was. Final scene. Rooftop farewell. Sunset. Anna held the script in her lap, but she didn't read it. Not anymore. She knew the words. She had lived them. The story had soaked into her bones, and what was left now wasn't acting. It was letting go. The morning on set felt strange. Laughter mixed with quiet glances. People packed away gear slower than usual, as if dragging their feet might slow down time. The wardrobe team offered hugs with each outfit change. The sound guy adjusted her mic twice, not because it needed it, but because his hands were shaky. Anna watched it all and stayed silent. Her chest felt heavy in a new way. Not like fear, but like gratitude pressing against the ribs. When she stepped out of her trailer for the final time, she didn't wear her usual jacket. She wore the one from the first day, the soft one with the rolled-up sleeves, the one she had worn when she missed her cue and thought she had failed. Keanu stood across the lot, already in costume. He didn't say anything when she walked up. He just looked at her, nodded once, and smiled. They both knew this scene would be the last take. The crew had saved it intentionally, like saving the last piece of something you know you'll never get again. The rooftop set was bathed in golden light, the real sun doing most of the work. The scene was simple. 2 characters saying goodbye. No tears, no big speech. Just presence. Just truth. Anna sat on the ledge, her legs swinging slowly. Keanu walked in from behind her, took a spot beside her, and looked out at the horizon. They didn't speak for the first few beats. Just silence again. Just like that very first moment, when she had missed her cue and he had waited. Only this time there was no mistake. The pause was on purpose, and it was beautiful. The dialogue came like soft wind. She said her line. He answered. Then silence again. A long, aching pause. They turned to each other. No cue now. Just instinct. Anna reached out and took his hand. Not in character. Not for the story. Just because. Keanu looked down at their hands and didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The camera rolled, capturing every breath, every quiet second that passed between them. And then the director whispered the final word. Cut. The crew didn't clap immediately. They waited, because they knew something sacred had just ended. Anna stood slowly, Keanu too. They faced each other, not as characters, not even as co-stars, but as something deeper. Anna said, "You were right. It didn't end." Keanu nodded. "We carry it with us." "But where do we go now?" He smiled. "Forward. Together or apart. But forward." A single tear slipped down Anna's cheek. "I'm scared of leaving this behind." "Then don't," he whispered. "Keep it close. The silence, the trust, the pause that held you. It's yours now." They stood in a long hug, the world fading around them. The crew quietly began packing up, giving them space. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they finally walked off set, but not side by side. Anna stopped at the edge of the stairs and turned back. Keanu was standing there watching her. She smiled. "Will you wait if I ever miss the cue again?" she asked softly. Keanu didn't move, didn't speak. He just nodded. And she knew. He always would. Weeks later, the film premiered to standing ovations. People didn't just praise the performances. They talked about the silences, the pauses, the moments where nothing was said, but everything was felt. Anna watched the premiere from the back of the theater, hands folded in her lap. And when scene 92 came on, the one with no dialogue, just her and Keanu on a bench, she felt the audience shift. Someone behind her whispered, "How did they do that?" Anna smiled quietly. They didn't do anything. They listened. They trusted. And sometimes, they waited. Months passed. Awards buzz followed. Interviews came and went. But one afternoon, Anna received a small envelope with no return address. Inside was a note, written in quiet handwriting. It was never about the line you missed. It was about how you came back stronger after the silence. At the bottom, just one word. Keanu. She folded the note and held it to her chest. Not as a memory, but as a beginning. Because some stories don't end with applause, they begin again in the quiet. And sometimes someone waits, just long enough for you to find your way back. Keanu sat beside her and handed her a bottle of water. Neither of them said much, but after a while Anna turned to him and said quietly, "You keep showing up when I can't." Keanu just smiled and said, "That's what scene partners do." But it wasn't just about the scene anymore. Something had shifted again. And this time, it felt permanent. The scene they shot became the talk of the set. Everyone whispered about it, not because of gossip, but because something real had happened. People who'd worked on 100 films said they'd never seen anything like it. The grip team stayed behind after wrap, just sitting on empty apple boxes. The lighting assistant cried behind her monitor. Even the catering guy, who didn't watch scenes, stood in the hallway holding a tray he never delivered, frozen in the moment. Anna didn't watch the playback. She couldn't. But she didn't need to. She remembered how it felt. And for the first time in a long time, she stopped doubting whether her emotions belonged on screen. She stopped wondering if she was too sensitive, too raw, too much. That scene had demanded truth, and she gave it everything. But what stayed with her more than the take was what happened after. No cameras, no lines, no direction, just silence again, and Keanu. He didn't ask questions, didn't offer advice, he just stayed near, kept her anchored, like a lighthouse in fog, not bright, not loud, just steady. 3 days later, the studio scheduled a break. The director said they'd earned it. Everyone nodded in agreement. The shoot was ahead of schedule. The energy on set had shifted. And deep down, even the executives sensed it was time to give the actors room to breathe. Anna didn't go home. She stayed in her trailer, curtains drawn, script folded on her lap. Outside, the California sun tried to make her smile through the blinds. Inside, she sat curled on the small couch, hugging her knees. The silence wasn't heavy this time. It was thoughtful, kind, like the world was waiting for her to say what came next. A soft knock came at the door. She didn't have to ask who it was. Keanu's knock had rhythm, always 2 soft taps, never rushed, never loud. Anna opened the door. "You're not using your brake?" he asked gently. She gave a half smile. "Was just thinking." "Me too." They didn't say much else, just ended up walking again, like they always did. Side by side, around the back of the lot, past the empty prop bins and stacked chairs. The place looked different without the crew. Quieter, more honest. Anna stopped beside a painted backdrop. It was meant to look like a sunset. She reached out and touched the fabric lightly. "Do you ever wonder what people will remember after this film's done?" she asked. Keanu looked around the lot. Not the script, not the budget, probably not the premiere. "Then what?" "Moments like that scene," he said, "and how people felt when they watched us trust each other." Anna nodded, then said, "I didn't know I had that trust in me." "You do," he said simply. "You just needed a reason." Anna turned to him, the afternoon sun catching the side of her face. "And you?" Keanu gave a soft smile. "I don't trust easily, but some people make it feel safe." They walked in silence again. But this time it wasn't empty. It was full. Later that evening, Anna sat in her trailer writing something in her notebook. Not a script, not lines, just thoughts, half sentences, memories, how it felt to freeze, how it felt to be waited on, how one person's kindness could shift a whole room. A knock again. She opened it to find a small bag hanging on the doorknob. Inside was a book. On acting from truth. No note, no name, but she knew who it was from. She smiled and clutched the book close to her chest. She hadn't known she needed it until now. That night, she texted Keanu for the first time outside of work hours. "Anna, thank you for the book." Keanu, "You're welcome." Anna, "You always seem to know what's needed before I do." Keanu, just listening to the silence. Anna, "What if I told you the silence is starting to feel like home?" Keanu, "Then maybe it's not silence anymore. Maybe it's peace." Anna didn't reply right away, but she read his message 3 times before falling asleep. The next day, the crew returned. Everyone moved with new energy. Even the gaffers smiled more. Something had shifted. Anna stepped onto set early, not out of fear, not out of nerves, but because she wanted to. Keanu was already there, sipping tea, sitting on a crate like always. She walked up and handed him a folded note. He opened it. It read, "Thank you for waiting for me, even when I didn't ask you to." Keanu looked up, his eyes soft. "You didn't have to write that," he said. "I know," she replied, "but I needed to." They moved into position for the next scene. A soft moment. Just dialogue. Nothing dramatic. Anna walked into set the next morning wearing the same jacket she had worn since the start of filming. Soft brown, a little worn around the edges. Sleeves pushed up as if she was always halfway between rushing in or walking away. Her face looked calm. Her steps were quiet. But Keanu noticed the difference. Not in how she walked, but in what she didn't do. She didn't look anyone in the eyes. Not out of pride, not from fear, but because too many eyes had seen too much yesterday. The moment she had frozen. The moment she couldn't speak. The moment the silence stretched long enough to show something real. And now, even though no one mentioned it, Anna felt like every glance carried a silent memory. She held her script tighter than usual. Her hands didn't shake this time, but her breath still came slow, as if she was measuring it. She stepped into makeup, let them fix her eyes, cover the tiny swelling that still lingered underneath. The artist didn't say much, just gently touched her cheek and whispered, "You were brave yesterday." Anna smiled softly. "I wasn't trying to be." That's when it shows most. Meanwhile, Keanu had arrived an hour earlier than needed. Not because he was eager, not because he wanted praise. He just liked being there early, watching how the crew moved, helping quietly with things no one asked him to, resetting props, moving lights, talking to the assistant camera guy about his wedding plans. People didn't always notice how much Keanu did when no one was watching. But Anna had started to see it now, and it made her heart ache in a different way. Like realizing the quietest person in the room might be carrying the most weight and doing it with grace. When they stepped on set together, the scene was a continuation of yesterday's heartbreak. Two characters confronting a truth they had both ignored. Lines filled with pain. Pauses filled with regret. Tension wrapped in soft tones. The director asked if they wanted a rehearsal. Keanu looked to Anna. "Your call." Anna shook her head slowly. "Let's go for it." The first take began. The lights dimmed slightly to match the late afternoon mood. The sound rolled, and Keanu entered first, as scripted. He looked out the window, silent, waiting for the line. This time, Anna stepped in right on cue. But something else happened. She didn't just say her lines. She lived them. The words cracked in her throat, not from bad delivery, but from real pain. Her eyes shimmered, not from glycerin drops, but from something raw beneath her skin. Keanu stood still, but his entire energy shifted. His character was supposed to act angry in that moment, supposed to raise his voice. But Keanu didn't follow the script exactly. He softened the line. He bent it. Not because he forgot, but because he adapted to the moment, because he saw the truth in her eyes and shaped the scene to hold her. After they finished, the entire crew stood quietly. No one shouted, "Cut." They just waited. And when the silence settled again, it didn't feel like failure. It felt like something sacred. The director stepped down from his monitor and whispered, "That's the one." Anna stepped off set and walked straight past her trailer. Keanu followed, not saying a word. They ended up at the same bench behind the lot, where yesterday's tea had gone cold and yesterday's tears had dried. This time, Anna spoke first. "You changed the line." Keanu shrugged. "It felt better that way. But it wasn't in the script. Neither was your pause yesterday, and it was perfect." Anna looked down. Her eyes stung again, not from the scene, but from how seen she felt in this quiet space. "I've never had anyone do that," she whispered. "What?" "Wait for me. Adjust for me. Treat my silence like part of the story, not a mistake." Keanu leaned back, his hands folded in his lap. He looked up at the clouds drifting over the studio rooftops. "Everyone's story has silence," he said softly. "Most people just talk over it." Anna let that sink in, then asked, "So what do you do with yours?" Keanu smiled faintly. "I listen to it." For the rest of the week, the set felt lighter. Not because the scenes were easy, but because the energy had shifted. The crew was more gentle. The pace was slower, more thoughtful. And Anna, without realizing it, had become a kind of center. People asked her opinion on framing, wardrobe, pacing. Not because they had to, but because they'd seen her strength. Not just in the way she performed, but in the way she broke and returned. One night, near the end of filming that week, Anna stood by the back wall of the studio alone. She had a coffee in her hand. Her head leaned against the cool bricks. Keanu walked over, quiet as always. He didn't speak right away. He just leaned against the wall beside her, both of them staring out into the evening shadows. "Do you think people will know?" she asked. "Know what?" How much of it was real? Keanu thought about that.